Thank you for joining our webinar today, Clarity Before Commitment and how to choose the right ERP for your business. In this session, we'll be discussing the key decision factors you should be considering when choosing a cloud ERP and how we help organizations choose the right fit for their business needs. So I'll just quickly run through our agenda for today. We'll start with an introduction to who is joining us today from the Nolan team, run through some key factors to consider at the start of the ERP decision-making process, provide a checklist of what we can do to help you come to the right decision for your business. And lastly, we'll then discuss how we understand your business and priorities, including running through some real life examples. As I said before, please feel free to ask any questions throughout the live session. If you can enter them in the chat, and we'll try and answer them as we go. If we do have any left over, we'll come back to you with an answer directly over email. So who's on the call with us today? We have Mark Hennessy, our Managing Director here at Nolan. Mark has over 25 years of working with companies on their ERP systems. We also have Gary Hawksford, our Cloud Migration Specialist. Gary has been with us for a few years now, working in software and ERP solutions for 20 plus years, and has good experience with NetSuite and Business Central. And we also have myself, Sam Power, the Marketing Executive here at Nolan. So I'll just run through a bit of an introduction to Nolan's. So we are the UK's leading NetSuite and Business Central partner. So we feel we're in a position to give impartial insights into both systems. We were founded in 1988, so we're a trusted ERP advisor. And since 2007, we've been migrating businesses from on-premise systems to cloud-based ERP. We're an ISV, so we do solutions for NetSuite and Business Central, previously Dynamics GP too. We have over 1,300 active customers worldwide, and we have a lot of qualified technical resource throughout the team here. So those teams being support, development, consultancy, project management and training. And we're also a great place to work certified. So last year being awarded our certification for the third year running, and again qualified for best workplace for development, women and in tech. So that's a little bit about us. And now we'll go straight into the key decision factors to consider. So I'll hand you over to Mark.
Thanks, Sam. Yes, so key decision factors to consider when making, trying to make a decision as to what ERP to buy. Always feel for our customers trying to make the decisions a big and complicated and risky one to make. So hopefully we can help give you some things to think about and make it a bit easier for you. So go to the first slide. Okay, so obviously the starting point is looking internally, really looking at your organization, its size, its complexity. So how many entities are you? What locations do you work out of? What countries? What currencies? What languages? All those sort of high level things that obviously you need to just establish, be clear about. I think looking at the complexity of the organization is really key, because, and this thing of sort of versus headcount, because sometimes small companies can be quite complex. You know, we had a pound every time someone told us that we're just a simple company, we just got a warehouse, things go out and that's fine. And then when you scratch under the surface a little bit, you realize there's a bit of manufacturing goes on, or some services attached, and suddenly the requirements get more complex than they started out to be. So, but then equally, you can be a very large organization and quite a simple business to run, and it is quite simple. So the size isn't always one of the key factors. It's the complexity within that really matters. Integration requirements, so that being clear about your current IT real estate and how it all fits together, what systems talk to each other, what they need to talk to each other, what you want to change going forwards, and what's in scope is a key factor in making this decision. And then just talking to people, really looking at what current manual workarounds you've got in place. Are people working around the system? What would they like to get in the system and to make it more efficient? So that's a key thing as well. Growth ambitions. So what are the plans for growth? Are you planning to grow? Not everybody is, most are. I think, and what does that growth and expansion look like? Is that going international? Is that adding, different countries, different geographies into your mix? Or is it growing within the UK? Will the system be able to handle increased transaction volume as you grow? Being making sure you're not locking yourself into anything that's too small. Often growth comes from changing business model and additional revenue streams. So especially in the world's changing so fast with the likes of AI, how is that changing your organisation and your growth plans? So can a new ERP system support those plans going forwards, is key to look at. So it's not just, these systems aren't static. We go live with the first sort of iteration of the system, and then the best systems grow and change over time, really. So that's got to match your organisational needs as well. Is it all about M&A, being ready for that, bringing businesses in or putting yourself in a position to be sold, sort of thing? So that's how does the new system support that as well? Okay. Another key factor in the decision is reporting. I think the world of reporting is changing quite a bit, particularly with AI. It's more about sort of visibility and insights and intelligence from the data that's being stored in the system these days, making sure it's real time. We need to move quickly. Obviously, we need the core financial reports, the P&L, balance sheet, the budgets, the cash flow reporting, and so on. But it's more than that. I think it's the operational side as well. How well is our supply chain performing? How well our debtors being managed, and so on. So reporting in all those different areas has got to be good. Most people want to reduce their dependency around Excel. These sort of big complicated spreadsheets that exist, people tend to want to move away from them. So how can we support that? The system. That said, Business Central is really good at working with Excel, so there's a bit of a debate around that one. But often we hear people want to move away from them. And people want to be able to self-serve reporting these days, typically. So it's a key factor in the system, making sure the system can support that. So you can just go and ask the system for the information that you need, rather than having to wait for it to be served up by one of your colleagues. As I said at the start, intelligence and insight. So it's making sure the system can interpret the data that is coming out on a report and give you some actual insights as to what it means to you. Okay. Another big factor, I think, is this sort of debate between customization and standardization. So systems are big and flexible and powerful. We've got development teams that can make them do pretty much anything. So then the question really, should you? Where do you need something different to what standard practice? Can you adopt best practice in the system and change the way your business process works? And if you can't, that's fine. We can usually customize, or we can develop something to meet the exact requirement. But just understanding the impact on that longer term, what that means to look after it and support it and maintain it going forwards, really. So anything's possible with software, really. I probably regret saying that, but lots of things are possible with software. But should you do it? Is there just giving that some thought as you're going through trying to make the decision is important, I think. Okay. Obviously, budget and the licensing model. So understand the total cost of ownership, not just the license, I think is key. So as I say, the best systems are ones that evolve over time. So we put them in and then they get added to and changed over time as the business changes, typically. So looking at the total cost of that over the time period is important. It's not just implementation and support costs, although that's obviously key. And making sure that the license is flexible and can scale as your business evolves. How easy is it to bolt on extra users or bolt on extra functionality around it all? But obviously a key factor in the decision is the price of it, obviously, but just it's understanding how those costs build up. And we can certainly help with that. Okay. AI adoption. So do you have an AI adoption strategy? Most companies are working on it right now. If you're not, they probably should be thinking about it. Users will be using AI, employees will be using AI in one way, shape, or form. It's hard to avoid it these days, really. So what's your internal strategy around it? And how do we fit into that when we're looking at changing your ERP system? So things like using agents to automate routine tasks are available now. Purchasing agents, sales order agents, all these different things we can build into the ERP systems. As I said earlier, the predictive insights and forecasting, AI is really good at that interpretation of data and drawing conclusions from it. There's a sort of debate at the moment, or a hot topic is whether AI is embedded in the system or bolted on. So everybody's releasing MCP servers for their solutions, which means you can connect up your favorite AI tool, it's Claude or Copilot or ChatGPT, to your ERP system. Do we want to do that? Understanding what that means when you do it. If you've connected up your AI tool to multiple different systems, it's got all the information it needs to give some real good insights. But just understanding that and how that works, and it's a factor in your decision that you need to just think through. And then looking at the vendors, what's their investment and what's their roadmap for the products? How much are they putting into AI? Is it running on their infrastructure that can support this stuff. The likes of Oracle, Microsoft, who we work with, are obviously leading the charge with these things. So, but just looking at their commitment to the ERP and the AI within it, and just seeing where that's going as well, I think is a really important factor in the decision right now. Okay, so a quick sort of checklist then, just to help you sort of make that decision. So, if we go to the next slide. So, right at the start, just establishing the objectives and goals. What is it we're trying to achieve by changing the system? Why are we doing it? What is it we want to do with it going forwards? And I think being really clear about that, and then just looking back on those objectives and goals as we go through the process, making sure that we're staying on track, because it's easy to sort of drift off in different directions over a period of time with a complicated project. Setting timescales early on, being clear about when you want to go live. So when you sit down, right, we need to do something. When do we want to be on the new system? And being quite committed to that right very early on is important, because then we can work back from it. It could be, if we want to go live July 27 or something, then it's going to take 3 to 6 months to put it in. So we need to be preparing data and making a decision 9 months before that, or whatever it is. That we can help put that time scale together, and that will really drive momentum and making sure we hit that go live. If you set that date right from the start, then that drives momentum through the decision making process and the implementation itself, of course. Internal resource, we talked about budget already, but in resource, I think we always sort of say an ERP project doesn't happen to you, it happens with you. So making sure that you've got a team that can work with ours to help you put a system in. So just thinking about who internally is going to be running the project and making sure they've got the time away from their day jobs to do it really is an important thing to tick off as you're making this decision. Data migration is key as well. This typically starts with chart of accounts. It's always a conversation we have very early on, and it's something that you can be getting on with now, really, before we've even decided which system you're going to. It's making sure you're clear about what the chart of accounts needs to look like in the future. How is your current chart of accounts become unwieldy? Has it got bloated? Does it support the reporting needs you need going forward, basically? And then looking at the wider topic of data migration, historic data, how important is it to you? People tend to start from we can't lose anything, and then by the time we've gone live, it's typically quite a different situation as we've worked through all of it. So, but we can help with that as well and give good advice around what's the best way to migrate historic data. And I think this last one's really important. So, it's understand how you're going to make the decision, because it's typically not just one person. What's that process internally? Who's involved in it, and what's the criteria that you're going to use to decide which system that you're going to go by? So, and I think being open about that process and being transparent with it enables us as a partner to really feed into that and give you the right information at the right time to the right people. So just thinking about how that decision is going to be made and why they're going to choose one over the other early on, I think it's pretty important to have on your checklist to tick off as you start this journey in down the road for a new system. Okay. So, as you probably know, we do 2 systems. We are leading partner in the UK that does both Business Central and NetSuite. There's only we're pretty rare in that, so we tend to do this sort of one versus the other. So just a couple of slides, very just headline as to what really, I guess, the differences between the 2 systems. So switch to the next slide. So start with Business Central. So obviously we talk about the Microsoft advantage. Most businesses in the world are Microsoft customers. It's tough not to be a Microsoft customer, really, isn't it? Amazingly, that integration with 365 is just fantastic with Business Central. That integrates with Excel, with Word, with your Outlook and Teams and everything else is really powerful and a key feature of Business Central because it's a Microsoft product. I think that's one of its key benefits, really. Copilot AI and the agents and the agentic AI that brings into Business Central when we talk to Microsoft is all we hear about is how the AI is moving forward and how it can really drive the system for you in many ways. So, but having Copilot behind it, which is obviously got the might of Microsoft's investment behind it, is really great. User-friendly interface, I think they all are, but Business Central is particularly, I think, good, and generally a lower total cost of ownership over NetSuite. It's cheaper. It doesn't have as much functionality, but if it's got all the functionality you need, then why pay for stuff you're not going to use, really? So I think that typically is a key difference between the 2. As Business Central is has a lower total cost of ownership. If we look at NetSuite, so with Oracle NetSuite, we talk about the power of the suite. It's I think it's a bigger product than the Business Central. It has more functionality in it. It's got things like CRM and ticketing and project management, and all these, some of these things that aren't in Business Central. But if you need those areas, then it's there for you. If you don't, maybe NetSuite isn't the one. One of the key modules is the One World consolidation module. This is where we could have multiple subsidiaries within NetSuite and a real-time consolidation reporting, not just from a financial perspective, but across the whole suite. NetSuite ships with the Suite Success approach. This is pre-built accounts in certain verticals. So if your services or WDRS distribution or whatever it might be, a not-for-profit, it ships with a starting point. They've pre-built the solution for that each vertical, really. CRM system built in, if that's important to you, that's good to have there. 4 or 5 different analytic and reporting tools built into NetSuite as well, which is really powerful in that respect. And we talk about NetSuite Next, which is kind of the next evolution of NetSuite, which is on our doorstep. Our leading development accounts have it available now, so we're starting testing within it, which is good. But this is where AI gets much more embedded and surfaced through NetSuite with the next sort of version that's coming along. So it's really good to see Oracle really pushing hard on the AI side as well. Okay, I'll hand over to you, Gary.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. So yeah, what I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about how we go about understanding those business priorities and how that differs when we've got more than one product to offer a customer, as opposed to if we were doing it with only one product in mind. It's fair to say that it is very much process driven initially, understanding those outputs that you require, and that's not too dissimilar whether it's one product or 2 that are on offer. And the sort of things that I'm referring to there are your order to cash, so understanding how you're capturing sales orders, fulfilling those orders, invoicing your customers, and then reconciling their payments against those invoices, how you're managing your purchasing, so understanding demand, organizing your supply, creating all your purchase invoices in the system and then paying your suppliers. And then from a financial perspective, how you log in all of the transactions, the other transactions that you've got, what types of transactions, how you're forecasting, reporting your financial performance against budgets, and obviously how you're pulling together all of your tax reporting, regulatory reporting as well. But there's a lot more to it than just those business processes. There's some more softer sort of factors that do play into the choice, and we're going to look through those now. And to establish those, it's important to say we will always try to get on site and speak with customers, and not just to understand those processes, but understand the people and a bit more of the detail that goes behind it. So let's look at a few of those areas now. We're going to look first of all at business goals and strategy that Mark spoke about earlier. As we said, the ERP systems, they are big investments for most companies, not just from a financial perspective, but from the amount of resource that you put into them, making sure that they're implemented properly. So they're not the type of things that you're going to buy every other year. People tend to hang on to an ERP system for quite a number of years. So you want a system that's going to give you payback, not just today, but it's going to be able to adapt as time goes on. And that could be driven by the growth of your business, which can be through acquisitions, UK or Europe, and you're looking to consolidate that. So how's the application going to deal with those sort of things? You could be extending the scope of your ERP. So perhaps you're a manufacturing business and you want to sell to end users, or a distributor that's looking at bringing in some element of manufacturing into their particular process. Maybe your growth is more steady. It's through organic sort of customer acquisition, or you're diversifying your product base, and that can have impacts on how you're going to build to your customers in the future. But all of those sort of things potential changes can affect how you may judge a system will fit you best moving forward. One of the other areas we look at is skill set and experience. At the end of the day, both NetSuite and Oracle, they're two of the world's leading solutions. They're used by over 100,000 businesses worldwide, and both have very significant UK presence. So it's not unusual to find within your organization people that work with other companies that have used one of those two products, and that can be an influence in terms of where you move and which product you feel is a better fit for you. You may have had people in your team, if you're moving from a legacy product, an on-premise old legacy product to cloud, you may have people that, whilst they might not have used Business Central or NetSuite before, they've been through that processes. And sometimes their experiences and their learning points, their advice can also influence sort of how you approach that solution, and again, which product suits you best. One key thing that I found is a big factor is appetite and acceptance to change as well. So culture, I think, plays a huge part on it, and that's why it's particularly important for us to sort of, wherever possible, meet your subject matter experts and get a bit of a feel for this. If you're coming from an organization that's used a system for a long time, sometimes customers can have the approach of, yes, they want to take advantage of all of the benefits that are available with the cloud, but also they perhaps want a solution that's got a little bit of the same sort of look or feel, or the way that certain transaction postings work and those sort of things, so that they can manage change easier within their business. Whereas for other organizations, it can be completely the opposite. They're looking for something that's going to be a real catalyst to change within their organization, and it's going to inspire people to look at processes and evolve those with new systems to take advantage of the functionality within them, particularly AI. And AI is built into both of these products really well, and both of them also benefit from an MCP facility, which allows you to connect other AI sources into your ERP and enhance that sort of analysis and insight and automation as well. One other thing is your current technology stack and your future technology stack. This is quite a key area. Both systems do integrate well into other data sources and other software applications. And as Mark mentioned before, the general 365 applications are very accessible as well for both of the solutions. But wider than that, we do speak to companies that are very invested in the wider Microsoft platform, particularly things like the Power Platform, which they may use for reporting, for automation, for linking data and reporting on that. And they tend to have a greater propensity to move towards a Microsoft product. Other organizations will look at some of the wider Oracle technology that's now available and built into NetSuite. So stuff for data warehousing, planning and budgeting, integration platforms, and they'll see big advantage in those sort of things. So again, understanding that technology stack can help us figure out which is a better suit for you, fit for you there. So apart from that, there's maintenance and optimization. So Mark mentioned that your ERP will evolve over a period of time. At the end of the day, you'll find that your suppliers are innovating their products and services. The people that you work with and serve, your customers, their taste, their demands will change, and from a regulatory point of view, regulations are phased out, new ones are brought in, so things will need to change and to make sure your ERP remains current and delivers that same value to you. And customers can handle these and approach these in different ways. Some have that resource to be able to handle that in-house. Some will prefer partners to come in like us and develop those sort of enhancements as they go. And your approach to that again can also sort of influence which way we may feel that there's a better fit for you in there. So those are some of the main things that we'll look and we'll try to understand when proposing and recommending a solution to you. What we're going to do now is sort of look at the outputs that we'll provide you. Sometimes the decision can be fairly obvious. That there are certain things that Mark mentioned earlier. You look at a company, you feel that they're going to be a good fit for one product over another before you really sort of dive into that detail. Whereas other times it can be quite a close call. There's benefits on both sides, and in those cases where it is quite close, what we'll do is provide an output. You can see sort of an example of it there on screen, really, where we look at key business processes and we look at the strengths within both of those applications and try and highlight to you where you'll find those benefits and give you a bit of a feel as well for which one's going to provide you the better ROI, what that sort of potential for ROI payback will be, but give you enough information really that you can make a good decision from what will be either way could be a very good decision for you as well. Sometimes I say it's more obvious, and what we're going to do now, I'm going to talk about a few examples of companies that we've worked with and how their choices have been influenced and where they went. So first of all, I've got two companies on the screen at the moment, and they are sort of that typical sort of fit for a NetSuite or a Business Central implementation. So the first one that I'm going to talk about was a single UK entity that we were working with, manufacturing company with very sort of diverse requirements. Not only were they managing their finance system on there, but they're manufacturing, they had stock control, project accounting, and that particular company did have quite a high investment within the wider Microsoft platform, and naturally that sort of influenced their way to go. But there are other things as well that also impacted on that. As Mark mentioned, there is a lower cost of ownership of Microsoft, and with your standard licenses, you get so much in the product that meant they could deliver that diversity of functionality that they needed without sort of additional investments in further modules. The other example that I've got there is a multi-entity UK business. So again, really feeding into the strengths of NetSuite and being able to consolidate financial performance, etc. There's some very complex financial requirements, particularly around sort of engineering processes and project management and those sort of things. So again, the ability to sort of build workflows and bits of customization within the software really sort of helped drive that decision down that particular one, as well as the ability to report in multi-currency as well. Again, another key sort of benefit of NetSuite. Suite success also played a part, quite aggressive timeframes for their project start to go live. So again, the fact that there were pre-built dashboards within there also sort of really drove that decision to go down a NetSuite route as opposed to a Microsoft. But as I say, it's not always obvious. So another two examples I'm going to talk about where those choices sort of move the decision away from what you thought would typically be the way to go. So the next one that I'm going to talk about is a multi-UK entity consolidating financial results from many different companies and being able to analyze those results across the companies. You would have thought typical sort of NetSuite type of scenario in that one. But actually what drove the decisions there was the simplicity of the financial operation, the things as simple as transaction posting screens, those sort of things, that those really resonated with the accounts team there. The fact that we also had customers within their vertical that were using the Microsoft application, so that security of referenceability of the product, knowing that it worked, especially considering that that particular customer had also gone down another ERP route and a project that didn't work out. And the other big thing was integrations within that particular business. Both systems integrate really well, but having the Microsoft development team at Nolan's, which is quite extensive at the back of us, and being able to really sort of build some sophisticated sort of integrations there, which handled all of the sort of error processing, etc. That was a key decision that led them down the Microsoft route as opposed to NetSuite. And the last one, a single UK entity business in distribution, looking to grow, typical sort of Microsoft one, based on the fact that they were single, one location, UK based. You would have thought initially that would have been a typical sort of Microsoft type one. But actually there, it was really the sort of culture that drove it. I mentioned earlier, you know, an application, a platform that provides that sort of catalyst for change and innovation, and that was probably one of the things that drove that hunger for data insights, that desire to be able to self-serve data quickly and easily, and have that sort of built into dashboards that were there on screen and allowed people to make informed decisions about all sorts of different processes within that business. That was sort of the thing that really drove that type of that decision to move down the NetSuite route. So as I say, it's not always obvious, and spending time with customers and understanding much more than business process, having a more unbiased view of what fits, and really highlighting the benefits of each, as I think for these businesses definitely provided a lot of value add. So if you are looking at moving to a new ERP system, you want to look at cloud, then as I say, we offer two of the world leading solutions there, and can do a similar sort of exercise for you, and hopefully add a bit more value to your due diligence and decision-making processes as you lead up to your new ERP system. So I hope that's been helpful, and I'm going to pass back to Sam to sort of round up.
Thanks, Gary. Yep, so that's it from us today. We hope this has been useful to understand how we help you choose a new ERP system. This will be made available for you to watch on demand if you'd like to revisit anything from the session, and we'll get that link sent out to you shortly. If you do have any further questions after the webinar, please do reach out to us using our contact information on the screen. We will also be exhibiting at Accountex next week on the 13th and 14th of May. Three of us on the call. Will be on stand 531. So if you are attending and want to discuss anything further, please do come and say hi. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.